You know, titles is generally an important task, one for, of course, legislative lawyers. And so there are definitely some guidelines for drafting a bill's title. For example, in California and a number of states, we have what we call the single subject rule. Some other states, many other states that have a similar rule actually call it the one subject rule. This is a constitutional limitation in California and those other states. And so the title of the bill needs to ensure compliance with that constitutional requirement. In other words, the title needs to cover the components of the bill, and it's generally recommended that the bill drafter write the title last after finishing drafting the bill in chief, because you want to make sure that the title is adequately covered the subject of the bill, and it's probably most easily or best accomplished after writing the bill itself. It's usually recommended that the bill drafter avoid the use of words such as and or in the bill title, because generally a conjunction may open you up for a potential violation of the constitutional single subject requirement. Now, there are some exceptions, of course, where you include a conjunction because, for example, no single word exists. For example, drug and alcohol offense. But in general, you try to stay away from it because the bill's title should capture one main subject of the bill. Another recommendation is to not have a narrative title that attempts to list, for example, all the different items contained in a bill. Instead, it should be a single common subject that covers all the provisions of the particular bill. The bill drafter also generally wants to avoid generic statements, such as like catch-all phrases like and for other purposes in the title. Now, to be fair, some states do it. California generally does not. In fact, that phrase is actually common in congressional legislation at the federal level, but California titles avoid that sort of stuff. Bill drafter also wants to generally avoid a title that's too broad, something like relating to state government, or something too narrow, relating to a tax credit for homeless veterans. Now, this is due to the fact that when a title's too narrow, there may be a likelihood that a bill could contain a subject that is not covered by that title, which under the single subject rule generally makes it void because it wasn't mentioned in the title of the bill. So a bill's title is generally ideally to be drafted to allow only amendments that are likely foreseeable and that are germane to the single subject or the one subject of the bill. Things like appropriations and other special provisions of a bill, such as an urgency clause, are also set forth in the title in California. The general purpose of the bill's title is to provide notice to the public of the contents of the bill. And so, as part of writing the title, the bill drafter should also avoid things like subjective judgments or any explanation or rationale in the title of the bill. And so similarly, the bill drafter wants to avoid stating any particular reasons for a bill in its bill title.